Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Tehillim Treasures, where we will plumb the beautiful depths and treasures of Tehillim from the very beginning of Tehillim to the end of David HaMelech's masterpiece. This episode is brought to you by Chazaq. Chazaq is an organization that helps public school children become Shomrei Torah mitzvahs, exposes them to the beauty of Torah and mitzvahs. Imagine for a moment you're standing in a store or you're walking down the street. You know the neighbor. You've known them for many years. You see their children riding their bike in the driveway. And you know they're Jewish. But now there's someone who can help them take the next step. And that is Chazaq, with countless programs after school and other wonderful programs to help expose them to the beauty of Yiddishkeit. If you know someone or know someone that knows someone that can help these children, then please email at psty@chazaq.org. This episode is also brought to you by Chickens for Shabbos. Chickens for Shabbos is exactly what it says it is, plus more. There are many people. There are Melamdim's children. There are Agunis. There are Grushis. There are families that do not have simple essentials for Shabbos and for life. Whatever they need, Chickens for Shabbos is there to provide. Please do your utmost to help in any way you can. Today we will continue with Kapitel Kuf Chav Gimel and Kuf Chav Dalet, chapters 123 and 124, as we continue this beautiful journey through Sefer Tehillim. In Kapitel Kuf Chav Gimel, we continue in the Shir HaMalais, and we say, Shir HaMalais, Eilecha to you nosasi es einai, I raise my eyes. And this means that sometimes people need to be completely aware of where they stand and where the Rabbeinu Shalom stands. In order for somebody to raise his eyes, that means he's not normally standing with an awareness that he's eye-to-eye level with Hashem. And of course, nobody would say that he's on equal footing with Hashem Yisbarach. Nevertheless, people might think, at least through their actions, they might say that I don't need the Rabbeinu Shalom. I'm doing a fine job by myself, whether it's in Parnasa or Shidduchim or raising your children. Whatever area it is, people feel that they're doing okay. Nevertheless, we have to understand that we must raise our eyes to Hashem. Normally, we must stay very grounded. However, every once in a while, a person needs to know who he is, what he is, and how chashuv he is in the eyes of Hashem. Because there are so many people who look to knock us down, to belittle us, to make us feel small, that sometimes we need to be ready to stand up for ourselves. Rabbi Yisrael Zev Gustman was the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshivas Netzach Yisrael. He's a tremendous tzaddik. I personally feel a great hakaras hatov to him because his Sefer Kuntrusei Shurim is something that I used, especially in preparing my very first shtickle Torah when I was in yeshiva, on the topic of Zutei Shel Yam, third year Beis Medrash. So I always had a tremendous hakaras hatov to Rav Gustman. Rav Gustman didn't need my hakaras hatov. He was an incredibly humble person. He was a very simple person in his dress, and it was obvious that he knew that this world is a temporary existence. But one time when Hashem's honor was at stake, he had to stand up for who he is and for the honor of Hashem. There were a group of chutzpanyaks, a very, very impudent young man, who they didn't approve, whatever that means, of Rav Gustman's standard of kashrus. They were dissatisfied with the cooking yeshiva. They didn't think that it was appropriate. And they said, listen, we notice that you are allowing food into yeshiva with a hechsher that we don't approve of. Groise Chachamim. And we want you to switch to a different supplier. Now that in itself is a chutzpah request. But what they said next was unconscionable, was something that was completely unacceptable. Because they said, if you do so, we're going to give you tremendous kavod. But if you choose not to listen to our request, we will splatter your name all over the walls of Yerushalayim, and we will be mevaze you. Now, what he should have done is he should have smacked them across the face and kicked them out of his office. But Rav Gustman spoke to them in a very sharp tone. And he said as follows, you think I need your honor. You think I'm afraid of your shame. Let me tell you something about myself that you don't know. He said, when I was 22 years old, there was a meeting of Rabbanim in Vilna, and I walked into the room 10 minutes late. I was a young man. When I walked in, Reb Chaim Ozer Grudzinski, who was the Gadol Hadar, the undisputed Gadol Hadar, stood up for me. When he stood up for me, the entire rabbinate of Vilna stood up because of Reb Chaim Ozer standing. Then of course they were going to stand. Nothing you could do for me could possibly match the kavod I received that day in Vilna. And regarding your threats of humiliation, let me tell you what true humiliation means. I had one son. My son was the apple of my eye. His name was Meirka. When Meir was 4 years old, the Nazis found our hiding place. They grabbed my Meir, and I was trying to hold him and protect him from the Nazis beating him. But the Rishonim beat him until blood covered my entire body. His blood. When the Nazis were done, they pushed me, holding him, into a pile of manure. And there we were. As I cried bitterly, I buried my son with my own bare hands. But we were so desperate for food that I took off his little shoes and I cleaned them from the blood and from the manure. And I traded them for food for our family, my wife and my daughter. Do you have any idea how humiliating it is to be thrown into manure with your dead child and then to sell his shoes? No amount of kavod you ever give me can match the honor I received. And no amount of busha can match the humiliation I received. I will continue to take food from the establishments that I determine are good with the local hechsher. Do what you want. Person has to know where he stands in this world. The people will try to knock us down, but the Ribbono Shel Olam knows who we are and what we mean to him. Moving along to the next kapitel, Shir Amalas LeDavid, Lulei Hashem Shahoyo Lanu Yoymar Na Yisrael. In the 24th chapter, 124th chapter of Tehillim, David HaMelech describes how it is only because of Hashem's protection that we are saved from our enemies. Lulei Hashem. Would it not be for Hashem, then they would have swallowed us alive. There's no way we can possibly stand up to our enemies. We currently find ourselves in the middle of a war that's lasted 5 months. There's never been a war in the modern era that has lasted 5 months where Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael has been involved. It's all new territory to us. Without the Ribbono Shel Olam, we would have been swallowed completely alive. Chaim Vital says that this Kapitel Tehillim refers to Golus Yishmael, the final Golus. Golus Edom will morph in to Golus Yishmael. When we talk about Golus Edom, we're referring to Esav. Esav's father-in-law was Yishmael. Kalei Seir v'choisnoi. We ask Hashem to annihilate Seir, which is Edom, and his father-in-law. But a person needs to know who our enemy is. Yishmael is a Pera Adam. He's not an Adam Pera. He's not a human being who was wild. His being is the wildness. We know what Hamas tried to do. We know what they did. We know the crimes they perpetrated. They're not meant for children's ears. It's something that still shakes us to our very core. But we must also know that we are Adam. Adam is a lashon of Adame le'elyon. We compare ourselves. We are in the image of God, and because of that, we emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Look at the disparity between a Yid and Yishmael. Yishmael is more animal than human. They are complete embodiment of Pereh. We take that word Pereh, and we are the Pe'er. We are the glory. Avdi ato Yisrael asher b'cha espa'er. Hashem is glorified through us. Hashem sees in us Him. Think about that for a moment. The Ribbono Shel Olam sees Himself in each and every one of us. And if we would stop for a moment and realize how we are the ambassadors of the Shekhinah, how we are the emissaries of God, then we would realize how great we are and the unlimited greatness we can achieve. You know, sometimes we forget what makes us great. And it is the Torah above all else that differentiates us. The Ribbono Shel Olam chose us, and He gave us Torah as the semel, as the message, as the symbol of what we are to embrace in order to accomplish our greatness. Rav Shimon Shkop, the Rosh Yeshiva of Shara Torah in Grodno, was one of the fathers of Lamdas. But he also had a very close bond with his Talmidim. And he had a Talmid, Rav Mordechai David Levine, who said that Rav Shimon wrote him a letter to convince him to come and learn in a yeshiva in Maltish. And he signed it, Hamisabek ba'afar raglei hatalmidim. He who sits in the dust of the feet of his Talmidim. A Rebbe teaches his Talmud Torah, passing it from one generation to the next. We know that our job is to be misabek ba'afar ragleim, that we should find ourselves in the dust of the Talmidei Chachamim. But Reb Shimon was flipping the script, and he was saying that he finds himself ba'afar ragleim, in the dust of the feet of the Talmidim. Reb David Lipschitz, another Talmud of Reb Shimon, would say that he would stand when he heard someone in the Beis Medrash saying over a piece of Torah from Reb Shimon. Can you imagine every time your Rebbe says a piece of Torah, you stand up for the Torah? We are different. We are Adam, Adame le'elyon. And we are special. We are in the image of God because He gave us the Torah to connect us to Him. We can never forget it. And that's what makes us so much greater than Yishmael. Until next time, sei gesund.